I have met a Draco very early on when I was started this work. I didn't know what it was, and it was trying to attack me. And so, yes, I have.
It was trying to attack you. So how did you get away from it?
Well, it was just an interesting scenario because I was in a house with two other people inside of me, and somebody was knocking the door and opened the door, and it was Draco, this dragon looking black, menacing type thing. I closed the door and I looked at the two people beside me and I said, "Do not open this door." And next thing I knew, and I was pushing against it, the whole door frame and the door, I was being pushed all the way through the house with this Draco pushing me all the way through the house. And I remember how calm I was. This is the part that shocked me the most. As I looked at those two people and I went, well, I guess I've got to take care of this, don't I? And I was just super calm about it. Well, the next thing I knew that it stopped and it left. And I worried all day the next day trying to figure out what I was going to do because I knew it was going to come back. What am I going to do? How am I going to handle this? So I decided after worrying all day that I was going to call my guides. I was going to call my angel that I had met. I was going to call everybody to help me out. But sure enough, when it came back the next day, all the angels showed up. They brought Jesus with them. They turned this Draco into a big red rose and took him off.
Hey, beautiful soul. I'm Hayden Crawford, your host and soul guide here at the Dreamtime Academy, a cosmic mystery school for starseeds and truth seekers, just like you, who are looking at rediscovering your inner wisdom for a life of more freedom, joy, and purpose. Now, before we dive into today's episode, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to this channel and click the bell for future notifications so that you never miss one of my podcast episodes of either the Numerology Show or Cosmic Conversations, or indeed some of my transmissions, which will help to activate the next layer of your spiritual awakening. I'm the author of the Starseed Ascension Guide and the Cosmic Family Oracle cards, both designed to help you to reconnect to your higher self and remember who you truly are. If you want to dive deeper, we have an online membership portal called the Oversoul Codex Collective, where you can join a like-minded group of starseeds from all across the planet as you delve into courses in numerology, colour therapy, and cosmic consciousness as well. You can also support this channel by becoming a member, either as a soul spark or a codex keeper. If you're feeling the call to join us together in person, then we also host consciousness expanding retreats in Perth, where you can really start to experience this incredibly immersive work within community environment. Once again, your support really helps this channel to grow. So thank you for joining this team of galactic lightworkers from all across the planet, helping to expand consciousness and bring light into the darkness. So welcome back to Cosmic Conversations. I'm your host, Hayden Crawford, and today we have a genuinely fantastic guest with us, Dr. Gail. Now, Gail is a healer, a psychic medium, and a bridge between the earth and the stars. She has decades of experience communicating with extraterrestrial intelligences. She offers unique insights into humanity's cosmic connections and healing through alien contact and awakening to our higher purpose as well. So whether you're a starseed, a light worker, or simply someone who senses there's more to reality than meets the eye, this is a conversation that you're absolutely going to love. So welcome, Dr. Gail. It's lovely to have you with me here today. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Hayden. I appreciate you having me. I've been a fan of yours for years.
You make me sound really old.
Okay, I have been a fan of yours for a few weeks now. How about
That,
that?
that's better. Yeah, we can go with that. So what first awakened you to your gifts as a psychic medium and, your extraterrestrial communication?
Well, my big awakening was when we went in with COVID in 2020. when I was by myself and I wasn't taking care of anybody. My background is I'm a nurse and I worked in the operating room, and then I went back to school and became a chiropractor. And then I retired from that to take care of my dad with dementia. So all my life I had been taking care of somebody. When we had to go in with COVID, my dad had passed and I was by myself with my pets, and I'm going, oh wow, I'm here. I'm going to try this meditation stuff. And that's exactly the words I used, this meditation stuff. I was going to learn how to do Spanish. I was going to learn Spanish. I was going to do meditation, and I was going to do all these other chores like paint my deck. I had all these plans. And so when I started meditating, that opened my whole world up. And I call myself kind of like a closet medium all my life because I've always known when ghosts were around or when people have passed and they're around me. But everybody always laughed at it, oh, you're crazy, all this kind of things. But when 2020 came around and I started meditating, was no questioning that. I started seeing my dad who had passed, physically seeing him, of course, in another dimension. And then we started sitting down and talking on a bench, created a bench to talk about life and money and those kind of things. And one day, an angel came flying around him and presenting me with a bracelet. Well, I freaked out. I was meditating, jumped off my couch, not knowing what had happened because she kept pushing this bracelet towards me. And I didn't take it. I was like, oh no, what's happening? And I jumped off. So I had only one metaphysical friend that I knew, and I sheepishly went to her. I'd worked with her for like 15 years and asked her what had happened. And she told me I was having a spiritual awakening. I was so new to the metaphysical world, I didn't know what that was. I was Googling spiritual awakening on out the door, trying to figure out what it was. And so then that opened me up to the next thing I met when I'm sitting there with my dad. An extraterrestrial came up, this little blue petite woman with a head. It kind of went out in a crown like this, and when she talked, it shook like jello. And she sat down beside me, and I couldn't figure out why my dad was allowing this to happen. I couldn't figure out why he was letting this weird looking person sit down beside me and talk. And she was just talking about nothing. She was like a little chatty Cathy, real personable and fun. And I'm just sitting looking at that jello head moving around. And then she got up and left. Well, that kept going on about every 2 weeks or so. I would meet another extraterrestrial, and I would keep going, running to my metaphysical friend, and her name's Meg, going, what was that? What happened? And she would explain it all to me. She says, oh, that was probably an Arcturian. That was probably a gray. And then when I met a reptilian, and I came back and told her about what I had met, this dinosaur looking thing on a bridge, and she freaked out. Then she goes, okay, we need to stop here. We need to talk about that. Well, reptilian was nice. And of course, there's nice reptilians. So I converted her to knowing there were nice reptilians. But that kept going on probably for about 3 months. I kept meeting these extraterrestrials, and I kept asking each one of them, why am I meeting you? What's the reason for us? And they're going, you're not ready yet. You're not ready yet. So eventually, one day had taken my two dogs, I had two dogs at that time, out hiking. And when we came back to the car, there was a mantis being sitting in my passenger seat. And I'm going, the dogs weren't freaking out about it. They weren't doing so. I'm thinking, okay, this mantis being's fine. Well, he rode with me until we went to this a farm that sells vegetables and things. And I went out and got my vegetables and got cookies and the goodies and came back. And he asked me if I would work with them, work with the extraterrestrials. And I'm going, what are you wanting me to do? And he said, we want you to communicate between the humans and the extraterrestrials. And I'm going, okay, that sounds fun. I'll do that. And he said, and I would be going out to like these Area 51 places to help. And I'm thinking in my mind going, oh, this is going to be a lot of training. I can't even learn how to spell. I can't even learn Spanish, much less all these different languages that they're thinking I'm going to be able to learn. But I'm going, oh, sure. Okay, I'll do that. And the next thing I knew, immediately at that moment when I said yes, I was transported into a facility that was containing all these extraterrestrials in each cell. And I was following this guard down the hallway, and I'm confused at what was happening and seeing these extraterrestrials until one of the cells was one that I knew. I had met him. Long story short on that is I was communicating, and I couldn't figure out also how I was going to communicate with them, but telepathically I was already hearing them, and the guard couldn't hear them, and I was hearing every one of the conversations of all the extraterrestrials. And one of them told me, "Don't let them know that you can do that." And so that helped me. There was one of them that I needed to get out, and then we rescued him. We got him out of that facility. So that's when my whole role started, with rescuing extraterrestrials out of these type of Area 51 places. Now, I had a partner that they teamed me up with, and she lives in the US like I do, and she's a few states away. And she taught me energy work. Of course, I already had the medical background, and she taught me how to use my medical background and the things that I could do medically into energy work. And she was with me for about 6 weeks, and she was going on these missions with me. And a lot of it was teaching me that. And I think it was also a validation for me that this was truly happening, because this is happening to somebody else too. And so that's what I did for, I would say my awakening came in July, and I was going on rescue missions by November 1st. That's how fast it was for me. So I did a lot of rescue missions all over the US, all over the world, getting these sick and dying extraterrestrials out of these facilities and taking them back to their family, spaceships, planets, stars, wherever they go. So that was how it all began. I feel
There
like
you
I'm
go.
just throwing so much stuff out. I'm just throwing it out there.
No, I like it. It's interesting because nothing surprises me. I'm like so open-minded. Like I believe just about all of it now because I've heard so much and I've had my own experiences as well. So I kind of get it.
Right.
But I've never really rescued, extraterrestrials from facilities. So what I'm interested in is like, how do you go about doing that? Is it all done sort of psychically? Because obviously you can't go into Area 51 and literally pick one up and start and then sort of take it somewhere else.
Right. Well, there's two ways of doing, two ways of traveling, I call it. And how I explained it is psychically, but my soul leaves my body and travels there and does the rescue mission while my physical 3D body stays here. I cannot be working both bodies at the same time. I can't be working here on 3D and then do a rescue mission. My body has to be resting here, and then I can go do that, and vice versa. If I'm working here, I can't be doing rescue missions and things on the spaceships or these Area 51 places. So I call that my soul traveling, and my body physically leaves my body, or my soul leaves my body, can take on a younger me, it can take on a dolphin, porpoise, reptilian, whatever. It can take on any form I needed to take on or want to. Now, when I am doing astral traveling, I call that's a ghost to me living my body. Like you can see through it. I can't touch, feel, eat. I can't do anything when I'm astral traveling. I'm just going out to experience it or to look, or, kind of remote viewing comes kind of under that category a little bit too. That's a little more structured, but that's how I explain it. That it's usually that when it comes to a mission or doing something, my soul leaves, takes on another body that can touch, feel, work, eat, do all those kind of things.
Okay, so it's in a way it's a bit like a soul transfer that your soul goes into a different physical vessel, like another body of a dolphin or a mantis being or whatever, and it will
And
go into
usually a younger me.
usually
I
a
think
younger
that's
you.
right.
So how
Yeah.
does it go undetected then when you're going into top secret environments like Area 51?
Well, it's a whole team that goes in, and the team goes in. There's a ground crew, and there's a crew that's in the spaceship, and it's a long process on what happens, because you have the people who are getting the intel and relaying all the messages and everything to you, and So my part in all of that was just being the communicator in the beginning. I had to I had the ability to communicate from who was in the spaceship to who the ground crew was to who the extraterrestrials were that were captive. I was the one that could decipher or know all their languages telepathically, communicating whatever way I needed to communicate. I had that ability to communicate with all of them. And so that's how I would be. That's how I started. Now, eventually, I was also the one who was sneaking into these places. I could energetically unlock the doors, and then we had to do a lot of energy healing there to be able to transport a extraterrestrial into a spaceship. There's a whole lot of details that go to it. And also, my first book goes into a lot of that. That's this one,
Mhm.
how I learned to fly a spaceship. That's all. That book's just about my missions that I did.
How interesting. It's fascinating to to sort of take on such a big mission, Gail, isn't it? It must have been quite hard for the human version of you, the sort of the 3D avatar version of you to even comprehend that this was really happening. At any point, did you feel like you were going a bit insane?
I never, because of my metal background, I never felt like I was going insane. But every day went into my friend Meg and described a new extraterrestrial that I met. I went, I got a brain tumor. I'm hallucinating. I kept saying that. And finally, I think it took me 6 months before I stopped saying that because I finally went, well, if I'm going, this is the greatest way to go. I'm going, if I want to die, I want to go like this. So let me keep that brain tumor. So anyway,
Absolutely.
that's
'Cause at least you get to play out the hero's mission, which is great. But I suppose, I'd be interested to find out what type of galactic races are being held captive. Are they all from the same place or are they from different constellations?
different things. Like I would say the typical one would be like if an Arcturian is here on Earth, they have a cream that they put on their body for them to be able to breathe on Earth, and it's typical for them to run out of that cream. So they started getting into respiratory distress. So they have to get out of there. A lot of times the Greys have difficulty with our food, so they kind of start starving to death. And the reptilians, a lot of them were being experimented on. Like they would put a human appendix in, or they would clip an optic nerve. They would do different things in different species. I was going in and taking care of a lot of them, different species. It didn't really. Um, I wouldn't say there's any specific species that I was working with.
Okay, so there's lots of different ones. So were the Pleiadians as well? Have you've met
I haven't done as much with the Palladians or rescued much with the Palladians as the other um, extraterrestrials. Now, when I was working with the spaceship that I worked with was called the Ashtar Medical One, and it was a kind of like a hospital spaceship, or they call it a medical. Of course, we call it like a hospital. And it worked on hybrids. It only had hybrids that they worked on. The Palladians would have their spaceship, kind of like their hospital. Arcturians would have their hospital. But this is one that was all the mixed breeds that I was working with, that I was associated with. Everybody who worked on there was a hybrid, and everybody that we worked on was a hybrid.
So, for those that don't know what a hybrid is, could you explain what they look like? Are they a third dimensional being, like we are as humans, or are they fourth, fifth, sixth dimension?
All of it. Can be any of it, any or above, because I would say like an example would be a human Palladian mix. And how they told me how to describe it would that the person looks human and they're part Palladian, they would call them a human hybrid. If they look Palladian, it would be considered a Palladian hybrid. And it might be like a Palladian mixed with a reptilian, or a gray mixed with an Arcturian, all sorts of things. And it depended on what they looked like and what they were called. But I
Okay.
also was very involved in the hybrid program, like the babies that were being delivered or born as hybrids. I was very involved in that also.
Amazing. So were you actually a midwife within that environment on the medical ships?
I wasn't a midwife, but I did participate in a C-section and some deliveries. But I was generally called a surgeon on that spaceship, and I was only called in when there was a difficulties on something like that on a delivery. Now the C-section that and I was new to this was my very first thing that I did with the hybrids, and I think it was just kind of getting me used to it. It was a C-section, and it was done. I think it was in Brazil, where the Brazilian woman was carrying two children. One was going to be look gray, and the other one would look human. She would get to keep the human, and the gray would go to the gray on the spaceship. Now, the reason why this woman could not have children and the woman on the spaceship, the gray, could not have children. So they picked two women, allowed both of them to have children. The human stayed with the human, and the gray went with the gray, and both of them being the same mixture, but just looking different.
Wow, that's so fascinating. It really is. It's blown my mind, this conversation, actually. So I've never spoken to anyone who's had such a, such a mission, to rescue the ETs before in such a very sort of real way. Okay,
Well,
so you,
that's a lot of funny things that happens too, because my recall of all my mistakes also. And whenever I'd make a mistake or something was different, they would always say, "Oh, you're so human." And also, that was the other thing that I would ask them, go, "Why me? Why have I been picked?" And they'll go, "Because you look human." And I just never could understand what they were meaning by that until later when I found out I was a hybrid and that I look human. And that's why they would go, "We picked you because you look human." And then my mistakes or my things that I would do, they would say, "Oh, you're so human," and laugh at me. So I felt like they're entertainment sometimes.
okay, so you're a hybrid yourself. So I met with Vivian Chauvet, and she's an Arcturian hybrid. Are you an Arcturian hybrid as well, or are you?
I am an Arcturian hybrid, but she calls herself an Arcturian hybrid. I'm a human hybrid because I look human. That's how they describe it. So she technically is actually a human hybrid.
Got it. Okay, interesting. So it's the same thing. So just before we came onto the chat, we were talking about the use of color therapy within the medical spaceships. And could you just explain to the people watching today, like how the Galactics are using color resonance techniques for healing the different conditions?
Right. Well, the we use light in the surgery all the time. Like whenever the surgery usually begins, we're using yellow light, and by the end of the surgery, we're using blue light to calm the nervous system down. The yellow light's to kind of activate the body to the healing, and then the blue light is to calm it down. And we also work on the chakras, changing the color, not changing the colors of the chakras, but cleaning out the chakras that were damaged and replacing it with color. But we used a lot of colors through. It was almost like a color wheel, but it wasn't really a color wheel that would be shining on the person the whole time any procedure was being done. Color was very widely used in surgery.
What type of spaceship? Where did it originate from, this particular craft? Was that from Arcturus or was it from Andromeda or other
This
planets?
spacecraft was the Astro Medical One, and it, as I said, it was a hybrid spaceship. So it was almost like it was a collective. Like they said it was Astro Medical One, and the one meant the collection. So it was almost like all the spaceships or all the different species participated in this because these were all hybrids. So they all had a kind of putting the game on it. So it was a collection of all the different species on there. And I would in my surgical suite, I would have to change what it looked like to go along with what species I was working on to make it comfortable. The humans and the gray hybrids would be this, the reptilians would be this. So the whole scenery and everything I would change to accommodate different species.
Beautiful. That sounds amazing. So a bit like, I guess, the spectrochrome by Darius Dinshaw. He invented that light frequency um, uh, um, technology, I suppose, back in the 40s, and his facility got shut down. So I guess that would have been something that was inspired potentially by the Galactics, um, those types of techniques. Is that right? Do a lot of the extraterrestrials pass this information down onto the Earth so that we can start harnessing the powers of it too?
Right. They do. And actually, what they tell me is they go from person to person until the one somebody says yes. And I happened in that in my car in the parking lot, sitting in front of the that farm that I was at. I said yes. I was gone. So they did. If I had said no, they'd have just moved on to the next person.
Ah, okay.
So he probably said yes about the color when they came to him.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's interesting how, that was his facility was shut down. It was actually everything was destroyed because, it was threatening, I suppose, mainstream medicine and the pharmaceutical industry, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's
So
just like energy, energy work also. And me, chiropractic used to be like that years ago, where they would put people in jail for practicing chiropractic.
things have changed so much, haven't they? It's incredible. So I guess the different galactic races, when they're all like when you rescue them, are they feeling really intimidated by what's taking place? And why is it the military is doing the experiments on uh, the different alien species? And where do they go
Well,
once you've got them out?
Well, we take them back to their home planets or spaceships, wherever they're needing to go. We get our orders when we get them on the spaceship to where we go next with them. Sometimes we have to ride around a while before they're ready to accept whoever we're bringing to them. But it's kind of it's different for all of them. Where they go. My scariest one was going on the reptilian spaceship because they were so strict on how things had to be done, and we couldn't look at them. We had to sit forward and eyes couldn't move around. That always scared me. They finally gotten used to us, and then we didn't have a problem with them, but it took a while to gain their confidence in us or trust us.
Yeah, because you mentioned that there's nice reptilians as well as the hostile ones. So
Right.
you were only obviously working with the nice ones, but have you ever met a hostile reptilian?
Yeah. I have met a Draco very early on when I was starting this work. I didn't know what it was, and it was trying to attack me. And so, yes, I have.
It was trying to attack you. So how did you get away from it?
I well, it was just an interesting scenario, but I was in a house with two other people inside of me, and somebody was knocking the door and opened the door, and it was Draco, this dragon-looking black menacing type thing. I closed the door and I looked at the two people beside me and I said, "Do not open this door." And next thing I knew, and I was pushing against it, the whole door frame and the door, I was being pushed all the way through the house with this um, Draco pushing me all the way through the house. And I remember how calm I was. This is the part that shocked me the most. As I looked at those two people and I went, well, I guess I've got to take care of this, don't I? And I was just super calm about it. Well, the next thing I knew that it stopped and it left. And I worried all day the next day trying to figure out what I was going to do because I knew it was going to come back. What am I going to do? How am I going to handle this? So I decided after worrying all day that I was going to call my guides. I was going to call my angel that I had met. I was going to call everybody to help me out. Well, sure enough, when it came back the next day, all the angels showed up. They brought Jesus with them. They turned this Draco into a big red rose and took him off. So I had no idea what had happened, how it happened, why it happened. But I do think, hindsight, that was my introduction to what a Draco was and what it could do, what potential was. But me being so calm about it, I must have already known that I had that kind of support behind me.
Absolutely. It's wonderful that Jesus came in, to assist with the removal of that particular entity because, often people forget that they are divinely protected. So,
Mhm.
when you call upon, your highest and brightest angels and guides, they'll always be there to support you through times like that. So, even if you're, sort of working in this field, it doesn't mean to say that you have to feel scared, and it's wonderful that you've been able to overcome a lot of your fears and so that you can continue doing this work because it is really important, I think. I've seen a misty sort of grey, almost quite an intimidating figure twice in my life, in my bedroom. Once when I was 16, and once in Egypt when I was in Sharm el Sheikh when I was 35. And I was really scared, so I was like, I shut it down quite straight away, and I jumped out of bed and tried to put the light on in the room, and the bulb blew, and all this sort of stuff. What would that have been, do you think? Like from what you know, obviously it wasn't. It was there when I woke up, but then it disappeared very, very quickly once it realized that I'd seen it.
He was walking through. We have spirits walk through all the time, and and I'm hearing a big yes on that. That it was a spirit walking in, caught your light, knew who you were, stopped, went interested. Let me check this out, but you scooted it away. So that's basically what it was. And I agree. Whenever something like that happens, it is a little scary, but you do have a team helping you.
What galactic race are you picking up on that it was?
That wasn't I didn't pick up a galactic race on it as much as like a man in black type thing.
Yeah, okay. So it was more of a spirit, was it?
Yeah,
Ah,
yeah. I got more.
interesting.
That's what they showed me was that it was a spirit, and actually the guy was wearing a hat.
Yeah, it was very intimidating, whatever it was very, yeah, it freaked me out. And I just assumed because I was in Egypt the second time round that it must have been, like connected with the Galactics. But I suppose a lot of them aren't hostile, are they? They're a lot more friendly than people think. The majority of the galactic beings that you've rescued, are they, sort of benevolent beings?
They all been benevolent beings that I've rescued. As I said, the reptilians probably a little shaky sometimes, and I had one little teenage reptilian thought he thought he was going to attack me one time, and I turned my back, and I thought, of course, I found out later he was a teenager, just teenager being crazy, but his parents came and they were, he was benevolent. It's just being, I don't know, hormones or whatever, teenage boy. But yeah, all of them have been benevolent that I've rescued. It's not like I haven't seen or been around because whenever a negative, I also have worked with a lot of people who have negative entities, negative attachments, negative um, extraterrestrials attached to them, trying to uh, and it's usually somebody who's gifted that they try to feed off of their energy and try to keep them from ascending or shining their light brighter or using their gifts, and they'll cause anger issues, depression, and sometimes they'll have suicidal thoughts. So there are some of those negative extraterrestrials that I've dealt with, but I haven't rescued them. I've actually gotten them away from who the human they have attached to.
Yeah. So have you ever been to any different constellations then on these spaceships? And if so, where and what do they look like? Are they the same as the Earth or completely different?
Well, there's different things. In fact, that's my second book is talking about the different planets and stars that I've gone to. And it talks about how it is different, how they are different. Probably the strangest one I met when I walked off the spaceship, what looked like a 6 foot amoeba, gray amoeba. And I'm sitting there going, is that who I'm supposed to be meeting? And it was just moving across the ground. And I'm, just different things like that. And that was when my job was an interplanetary liaison. I was going to different planets and stars and hearing their complaints and taking it back to the Galactic Federation. And that was really interesting work that I did. Of course, Earth had the most complaints.
I bet.
We had a lot of complaints.
Yeah, I bet it did. It's fascinating that Earth, it gets a bit of a bad rap, but do a lot of the galactic races look at Earth and feel like we're doing a good job, or do they think, wow, they really need to pull their socks up?
I really don't get that feeling from them. I get more, and it might be the ones that I'm working with that they just have this loving feeling towards Earth, almost like we're their children, like they're trying to raise us. and they're trying to raise us so we can join them in the Galactic Federation. Like, please come on, we need you, we need you to join in, because what we do on Earth affects them on their other planets and stars. And we're just oblivious to it. We're just oblivious to what we're doing or how it affects them. So they really look at us kind of like children trying to bring us along and have us take a seat where we belong in Galactic Federation, and so we can learn how we're affecting everybody else.
Absolutely. Have you ever been to Andromeda?
I don't think so. No.
Have you been to the Pleiades?
I have been to different things. I know I've been to Tajeta. Is that how you say that? Tajeta, T-E-T. I'm not sure how you say that. All right, but I have been to a couple of stars in the Pleiades.
Okay. And what does it look like visually to be there?
To be, well, all of them are different. Every planet and stars and whatever. And as I said in my book, I describe a lot of them. There's a lot of descriptions. There's some that we can't see them because a lot of them are on the other side of the star or the Earth or whatever. There's one group that I met that looked like gnomes, and they kind of lived in the mountains, and they you can't see them because they're on the side of the mountain, and that looked like mountainous, but I can't remember right offhand. That there's one group, I can't remember which planet this was or star system was, that looked like deer, like they had deer legs, a human with deer legs and antlers, and they had little orange birds. And that planet was more forestry, but every one of them were different. Some of them have a lot of lakes. The ones that amoebas were, is they went into lakes, all these little lakes. They would live in lakes and come out. That's almost like where they slept, was they would slide into lakes. But every one of them were different.
Wow, it's fascinating. So much diversity, in this solar system. And have you ventured beyond our solar system?
I have, but only briefly. When we were delivering somebody who we rescued, we didn't even know what species that was. We had to take it to a different solar system, but it was just at the very edge of it to greet, because we were being greeted by somebody to pick them up.
Wow. Okay. So, how have you been able to navigate all of this emotionally within yourself?
Actually, emotionally, I've been fine, because it's regular life for me. It's just, I'm not. I'm actually surprised at how calm I am about it. How I'm just like, this is happening, But yeah, especially the different things I've done. But I've had a couple of regression therapies, and finding out that I've actually been going up to spaceships since I was an infant, and they've been training me since I was an infant. I learned how to walk through walls and things like that I have memories of. And so there, even though my awakening to 2020 of all this happening, they've been training me since I was an infant on how to do these things.
Do you know what's coming up for you in the future with regards to other missions?
Well, I'm not doing missions now. I've moved on to different things, because I was doing missions, and then I worked in the operating room on that spaceship doing surgeries. Then I went to become an interplanetary liaison, going to different planets and things. Then I moved on to a different spaceship, the Athena, which is like a trauma center where we did big rescue missions. But I was in charge of that spaceship. I wasn't the one participating in the actual um, rescue missions. I was in there helping organize the traumas. And then the latest thing I have been doing is rescuing children. These got this kind of a different mission here on Earth, children that are here on Earth that are actually hybrids, that the Dracos or the reptilians have found out who they are. So we're having to collect them and take them up to spaceship to be safe, because they're not wanting these children to develop and have these gifts. So that's kind of the latest missions I've been on, but this kind of missions are a little bit different. Just going to grab the child and put them up in the spaceship.
Are they a lot of the trafficked children?
Yes.
Okay. So and who's orchestrating all of this bad stuff with the kids? Like who's behind all of that?
Well, those are things I don't know a lot of who's doing because I'm just doing my job is
Yeah.
just rescuing. So I really don't know a lot of those kind of details on who, why, how, who's in charge. I'm just following orders to go get them out or to rescue them, those kind of things. But the children that I'm working on now, I know it's a negative reptilian group that's in control of that. But that's all I know. I don't know any of the real details of that.
And they're Earth-based in human hybrid form, are they? Like the bloodlines of the Windsors or the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers? Is it those people?
I don't even want to say, no, I don't know.
You're not sure?
I'm not sure. And if I did, I wouldn't say. There's
Okay.
a lot, there's a lot of things I cannot talk about.
Why though? Like for what purpose?
Well, I think it's for the safety of both of us.
All right, okay. Right, okay. So it's a lot of dark forces that are at hand that are that are sort of behind all of this. So doesn't that part of it scare you then?
I don't dwell on those kind of things. I'm participating in what I need to do and what I'm doing to help. So I really don't dwell on those kind of things. And I'm not sure how much I want to know.
Yeah.
As long as I'm helping, as long as I'm rescuing these people, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I, I'm worried about if I knew so much of the details on why and when and how, I think that would really weigh heavy on me because there's nothing I can really do about that. I would feel a little helpless.
Right. So you're just following orders, and
Yeah.
just yeah, you're just doing your job. The Athena then, is that also an Ashtar ship? Is it a part of the Ashtar Galactic Command?
Well, actually, it's an Arcturian spaceship, but it divides in two whenever we're going on these kind of missions. And when it divides in two, and it is connected to the Astro Medical one half of it becomes like the trauma center of the hospital, and it then turns into called the Ashtar Mobile One, and the army, the military is the other side, and it's so called the Athena. So we split whenever there's a big thing that we're going to like. Our very first mission on that, we went and rescued. I think it was 10,000 children. I think it was 10,000 children, and so the military splits and immediately goes into action to do the rescue, while the hospital spaceship, the Astro Mobile one, goes and goes into one spot to start receiving the injuries in the children.
When you say that the children are injured, like in what way have they been experimented on?
They're more mentally tormented because they're trying to not let them use their gifts. But here's the thing about the Astro Mobile one: when we bring these children in, we have the ability to change their brain waves. They're going to remember what happened to them, but it's not going to affect them like it affects us humans when we are having such traumas happening to us. We have these machines that can change the brain waves where they will have that memory, but it won't be physically, mentally, or socially or personality affecting them. So we can change these children's lives.
That's beautiful. So they have no memory recall of the trauma that they've been through.
They're going to remember it. It's just not going to affect them.
Okay. I recently watched a video interview with a lady called Kaya Ra, and I is she one of those children?
I don't know who
You
that
don't know who
is
she
actually.
is. She yeah, she escaped the whole trafficking circles, and she yeah, so I was just wondering if she was part of those facilities because she was talking about lots of different places where a lot of these gifted children are being experimented on. And
I'm getting, they're telling me yes.
okay, Yeah, it feels like it could be this part of the same thing. So for what purpose then do you feel like they are um, gathering together these gifted hybrid children? What do you know what they actually want from them?
Yeah, they're not wanting them to bring fruition to their gifts. These say, I'm just going to say reptilians, and not just reptilians, but they're feeding off of us. We're kind of like slaves to them. They're using our energy, getting us to do things, work for them. So they don't want these gifted children changing that, which that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to come in, and all of a sudden, everybody's going to have this awakening of what's happening and moving away from it. Well, they don't want that to happen.
Okay, so it's just a form of control. Do you see
Mhm.
that shifting in the future, for the Earth plane?
It already is shifting because right now, in just the past few weeks, they're asking people to start revealing who they are. So we're expecting us to have this big um, landing of the White House or whatever, big reveal. But that's not how it's happening now. They're going to the individuals, and now they're starting to ask the individuals to reveal who they are, which you're seeing them pop up on YouTube and everything all the time now, saying I am a hybrid, or I'm a walk-in. So that's what's happening now is everybody's starting to reveal themselves. And what these people who are already here on Earth are already loved by their family members and their friends, and everybody knows them that way. So when they reveal who they are, they're already still loved, they're already accepted. So that's how they're doing that now. And this information I just got it just a few weeks ago, but that's how it's going now. They're going doing it that way.
Okay, so more and more people have awoken, they're revealing who they are, where they're from, what they're here to do, and there's that sense of acceptance.
Mhm.
So that's the way that they arrive. It's not just through a big spaceship and everyone being beamed down. Okay.
Well, that eventually will happen, but we'll be also used to already knowing who everybody is by that time. It won't really matter. We're going, oh yeah, yeah, we already know that.
Okay. Yeah, because I know that Bashar is specifically talking about there being alien sort of contact and the integration of our cosmic families by 2027, I think. Do you see, yeah, do you feel like that timeline is accurate?
I have tried because originally I was told the timeline was 2024. And so, and then that didn't happen. And of course, I know we did have the drones that revealed themselves in December 2024. I do know, but I was expecting this big reveal. And so I quit trying to predict what was going to, when it's going to happen. But yeah, 2027, yeah, sure, why not? But I do think people are revealing who they are so much now, coming on YouTube or TikTok or whatever, and saying that they're, walk-ins, hybrids, whatever. So I think that's what I'm seeing is getting more used to seeing these people.
100%. So I've always felt that my soul has come in or originated in Andromeda, in the Andromeda constellation, not the galaxy. Do you, what do you pick up from that?
Oh, you're exactly right. I'm getting that you're exactly right. Well, they're also telling me that you're also a hybrid.
Am I? I was wondering if I was. Like, so I'm a hybrid. What's the cross then?
I think it's, I think you've got two. I think you have Andromedan and Palladian.
Hmm.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that feels right to me. Yeah. If I definitely feel a very deep connection with the Pleiades. It's almost like, yeah, that may be the more dominant physical attributes or something. Yeah.
Right.
Whereas the Andromedan is more the soul resonance or something
So
is
you're exactly right. You're
yeah.
exactly right.
Interesting. So, for many listeners that are watching, like, what advice would you give them for anyone who feels like they're not from here, and they haven't experienced contact yet?
Well, I would say start listening to shows like this and start, um, I have my channel and you've got your channel. Also, start listening to Gaia, do these different things like that. They help you open up. But like even in I have a small channel, but the people that are in there are all like hybrids and walk-ins, and in a place where it's all accepted and where they can talk about it. And then I have all these moderators who are watching to make sure we don't have negative comments coming in. But it's a good place to find home. Basically, these people who don't feel like they belong here, you're finding a group of people who think and feel just like you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think it's so important, for groups like this to exist now because it's somewhere, yeah, where you can feel safe and not overly exposed by, the judgments of other people and society in general. And because many, many more people are going through this whole wave of the next wave of awakening, because we know we saw a huge one in 2020, but things have kind of everything's heated up even more, hasn't it? In 2025 and 2026, as we come into a universal year one, it's all fresh new spring rebirths and lots more change and leveling up. So you mentioned that you've got the two books, How I Learned to Fly a Spaceship. What's your second book called?
My second one is How I Met an Alien. So those are my two books. But I forgot what I was going to say. I had a train of thought with what you were talking about, but I forgot now what it was. What I was going to say. I'll think of it in a
Well,
minute.
we were just talking about, how things are evolving, and how we're all like leveling up in a way, and as we move forward. And was it something connected with that about how you see things progressing?
It has totally slipped my mind, though.
Okay, so do you think?
Got it, got it, got it, got it, got it, got it. It came back. Everybody who's having issues with these type of things, and they're looking at their family members, and their family members are not accepting or saying they're crazy, which is normal. If they have not had these kind of experiences, or even if they don't have even the inkling of having these experiences, they don't understand. Most people who have not had any kind of experience with the extraterrestrials, they just don't understand. So you can't expect them to understand. So you really need to find your group who does understand what you're going through. And I have found that more and more and more that if they've not experienced it, they just don't understand it.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned that you've been told as well that you're not ready for certain information, even though, you're in the thick of it, really, aren't you? You're like boots on the ground or boots in space.
They don't tell me that anymore. When they were telling me I wasn't ready for that information was before I knew I was a hybrid, and it was even before I was going on rescue missions. That was when I was meeting all the extraterrestrials, with this lineup. I'm going, why am I meeting you? What anybody going to tell? Anyway, that's when they were saying, not ready for the information until that mantis being was in my car. That's what I was being told. Then after that, the information was coming to me. But also the thing people are always asking you is, why do you ask these questions? Why do you ask them these questions? But when you're in the moment, you're just in awe of what's happening to you, that you're just not even, the questions are not coming to your head until it's all over with. So it is, so you don't get as much as you would like to know. But anyway, that's how they don't say that to me anymore. They used to.
Yeah, so they used to say that, but they don't anymore. So you're ready for just about everything then, are you? Yeah.
Right, right. They had to
Great.
kind of warm me up to it. Of course, at this time when I was meeting them, I was still going, I've got a brain tumor. I need an MRI.
So there's a lot of people out there that are, sort of claiming all sorts of stuff at the moment. Lots of channelers now, as we see. Do you feel like all of these are being genuine, or do you feel like there are people that are kind of jumping on the bandwagon and they're just pretending? Do you see that happening as well?
Well, I think you know the answer to that. Of course, you have people jump on the bandwagon.
Okay, so for what purpose would they be doing that though, if it's not in alignment with who they are?
I don't know. I don't give that much energy or thought, or because I don't know what they're getting out of that. I don't know why they would do it, except maybe attention. Maybe that's it. It's the only
Because
thing I could think of, but I just
I
kind of
feel like there's
moved.
a lot of I feel like there's a lot of false prophets out there. So it's hard for people to know who they can trust, in this
Right.
space now. And um
Well, again, I think a lot of that, what you're talking about, is why even in the beginning when I was started this stuff, there's only one person I was talking to, and that was my friend Meg, who was telling me everything that was going on. Whenever I would order a book, I couldn't read it. They would, and I didn't realize what they were doing. They were making it blurry for me. They were wanting my information to come directly from them. They did not want me influenced by anybody else's work, which it took me going, my eyesight, what's wrong with my eyesight? I can't read this book. It took me, I don't know how many books I ordered before I found out, okay, I can read this one, but I can't read this one, that they were doing that. And I think that might have been a lot of my awakening being so late or so quick, is that the information is coming directly from them than anybody else. So I'm really not listening to a lot of people, a lot of different people like that, because I'm getting my information from them.
okay, good. No, that's great. So it sounds like, it's kind of unbiased, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I've been recently channeling and from the Andromedan Council, but specifically an aspect of my higher self, which I've named Oriel Tishuran. And I'm kind of going through an experiment with this at the moment just to see if I can tap in and what information's coming through. And one of the recent channelings that I did, um, I was told that very soon on Earth we're going to have medical facilities that are going to enable the human limbs to start growing back. And when I came out of this, I was like, oh my God, people are going to think that I've lost my mind, and like I'm just making it all up. But afterwards, when I thought,
This,
well, is that right? Is this really happening, or it
yeah,
is?
I see that really soon, seeing that coming really soon.
Oh, do you really?
Well, I mean, we can already do, what do you call it? The, not the replica, I can't remember what you call it. We can already do some replication of some things or tissue. So why, I mean, cloning and all those things, why wouldn't we be able to do limbs? I mean, that just seems like we probably already can. We just don't know that they're doing that already.
Right, okay. So, but I guess they're doing that sort of types of surgery on, the spaceships that you've been on.
Oh, oh, they're so, oh, you won't believe on the spaceship. I mean, on the Athena, there's a whole process there where and it starts off usually with soldiers being injured. There's a whole process where everybody goes kind of like in a triage room. And when you go in this triage room, you get to decide if you want to die, leave this planet, go take on another body, go on a different life, or do you want the body that you have to be repaired? Now, if you want to take on, and they have counselors in there talking to people about this. So if you decide that you want a new life, new body, whatever, you're moved to another room called the transition room, and a transition team comes in and counsels you, and you decide on what you want to do. I don't have much to do with that room as much. I have more to do with when the ones decide they want to stay in their life, and then they get to decide if they want to repair the body they're in or have their clone body. So they're then moved to another room, and there's all these bodies that are cloned in there. And then if they want to stay in the body they have, they're put in this kind of whirlpool tank and have these tubes attached to them. Their consciousness goes out of their body, and their body gets repaired. So it's a whole big process
Oh,
on
wow.
there. On, yeah,
So it almost feels like, like when people cross over through near-death experiences and then they get all these choices. What's the
right.
how thin is the veil between what you're experiencing there and what people experience when they've firstly crossed over? Is it the same place?
Think that's the same place because I've seen it and gone from room to room, and it just makes sense to me that that's what they're experiencing. And I don't know that it's on the Athena, but I think that's exactly what they're experiencing. And I'm getting a big yes on that. That is what they're experiencing, but I don't think it's on that spaceship. I think it's in a different place.
Okay. So a lot of the time when people cross over, do you believe that they're almost going into a galactic spaceship? It,
No, I'm hearing that they're not going in a galactic spaceship. There's just a whole nother whatever entity or something else, but these are the people who are working on the spaceship, the ones that have gone to rescue missions and things like that that I've been part of.
Yeah. Okay.
Two totally, two totally different things, but almost very similar experiences.
Yeah, because it's interesting because some of the near-death experiences that I've been listening to, people have met up with what they consider to be galactic beings when they first cross over, before they then meet Jesus and have their
Right.
life review and then move potentially into heaven. So my the
Those,
way,
those galactic beings are their family.
okay, so it's their
So
family.
that's their different. That's the difference. That's their family.
Got it. Okay. So they're meeting their family initially, which are galactic beings. Not always, I suppose, but
Right.
sometimes.
Well,
And
yeah, seeing galactic beings, that's their family that they're seeing. So not everybody has that family. But anyway, that's what, we all kind of meet our family when we go on the other side. They're usually waiting for us. And when people say they're seeing some galactic beings, that is their family. That could be where they're originally from.
got it. Okay. And Yeshua seems to sort of play a massive role in all of this as well. So he's working very closely with the Ashtar Galactic Command, isn't he?
Yeah, he and I have worked very closely together, and I don't know why, because I do not have a religious background. And I'm always shocked when he's showing up to help me. And he always shows up for me whenever I'm learning something new, that he'll show up. So and he's just the funniest, down to earth guy. And but as I said, I'm going, well, I don't have the religious background, but it is what it is.
How does he present himself to you? What does he look like when he shows up?
For me, he just looks like kind of like Jesus with kind of long, scraggly hair. The first time I met him and I knew who he was is I was meditating. When I meditate and I'm opening up my chakras, I have to go from crown down, because if I go from the bottom up, I climb out of my crown chakra. And the first time I did that, there he was. And I saw his feet in sandals, and I started crawling up and I looked at him and saw him. I was face to face. I mean, we were so close, and the words that came out of my mouth were, "Oh shit." And I went down to my knees and I'm going, "Oh, I'm so sorry I said that to your face." And he was laughing at me. And anyway, so since then, yeah, that's how's my reaction with. But now it's more like a friend relationship than anything.
That's
I got
beautiful.
used to it. Yeah.
And so, are the archangels there as well, and other ascended masters like Saint Germain or Metatron? Do you get to meet with any of those beings as well?
I have met them, but my connection more is with him, and there's one other one, and I'll think of his name. Jesus' uncle, whatever his name is. Those two are the ones that I've dealt with most. But I have seen the other ones, because there is a healing center on one of the stars that's called the Solaris Healing Center. And that's the healing center I have been exposed to, where that's where they all go get their healings. The archangels, power animals, angels, and you go in there and they're all getting their healings on that star. So I've seen them there. I've not had, oh, I've worked with Metatron. Um, I'm trying to think anybody else, but anyway, I've met them, but I'm not as close to them as I am Jesus, working with him.
Okay, that's fascinating. And do you get any feelings or sensations or information about the color mirrors system that I work with? Where do you feel that the wisdom from this color therapy system has originated from it?
I'm not exactly sure what the question you're asking, the wisdom
Yeah, the
or the original.
wisdom from the color mirrors system, because this is a channeled system from a lady called Melissa Jolly in South Africa, and I was just wondering, like, where she's channeled the information from, if it has come in from a different star system, and if so, do you get any
Okay,
feelings?
Pacific star system.
Yeah,
Just that color or the whole system?
the whole system.
Okay. Okay. So well, I haven't ever gone there. I think it's a multiple from Lemuria, I think. Yeah, it's actually a combination because Lemuria is a combination of galactic beings. There are the Palladians, the Arcturians, Syrians, but it was developed out of that combination of beings, and I think it came from Lemuria and or Atlantis.
Yeah.
It came from Atlantis. It came from Atlantis with the multiple beings, and so it's they're not. None of them are claiming it to be theirs. It was a and collective invention, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, beautiful. That's absolutely in alignment with what I believe it is as well, and Melissa as well. So that's great that you've picked up on that. It's interesting, yeah, because it's always
What did she say? I mean, because I don't really know who you're talking about.
okay. So Melissa Jolly is the lady that channeled the color mirrors back in 2001, and she works very closely with Melchizedek, the Ascended Master, and Metatron, and of course the Galactics come through it. But it's very much an Atlantean color therapy system, but there's a lot of the wisdom is Lemurian as well. But it incorporates these Syrians, Pleiadian and Arcturian
Mhm.
frequencies. I think predominantly the beings that were kind of, sort of around at the seeding of the first humans in Atlantis, etc. So I feel like that's very in alignment. So it's great to see that these systems are being used and that are available. I'm
Can
going to
I
be
ask 4 questions about that?
yeah, go for it.
Okay, so the system that she developed, so is it the color combinations or the actual each individual color?
So it's the whole system. It's a collective system of enlightenment that looks at old Earth and new Earth color frequencies, and there's information in each of the bottles with the different color combinations. So each one carries its own storyline and healing resonance frequency. So we can work with the bottle color frequencies to reveal past life implications, karmic lessons, as well as sort of galactic origins, etc. as well, and also
And
work on the nitty-gritty human stuff as well.
so this is your system,
Yeah,
right?
this is the system I work with. Yeah.
Okay, well, I want to check it out, Hayden. Your system. And what was her name
So
again?
she's called Melissa Jolly. Yeah, Melissa Jolly. I've interviewed her actually on Cosmic Conversation. Oh, no, on the Numerology Show podcast. So there's a good
Okay.
interview of her on there that you can check out as well. But yeah, she channeled the system, and yeah, so she has got a very interesting story. I think you'd find it fascinating.
Sounds like we need to talk.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I mean, what about people who are skeptical or frightened by the idea of aliens or multidimensional beings? What would you say to those people that are scared still?
Well, uh, well, I don't think it's uncommon for people scared. It's the unknown, just like we're all scared a lot of times of the unknown. I've just gotten to know them. I don't know that I wouldn't be scared also because what do we see in cinema? Be scary. They're all scary. They're attacking us. They're taking over. And I'm like, let's look at this logically. If they wanted to take over, they would have done it. Yeah, there's nothing we can do to stop them. They would have already been here and have done it. So I think, the abductions and things like that people are scared of is because they don't know what happened to them. And talking to the Greys consider that a dark past because you don't hear abductions as much like you used to. The abductions, they didn't realize humans had the kind of emotions and feelings that they did. They equate that dark past of theirs to our past of slavery. So they're not, they feel ashamed about it, but it is that but that's their explanation is they didn't know how humans had so many emotions and feelings and things like that. And I think that's a lot of times what people are afraid of those things that are the unknown and the stories that we hear about those things that they're going to be abducted and these things are going to happen to them. So there's a reason for it, but thank goodness I've my all my experiences have been good ones. And I'm not real sure how people get over it. Maybe, oh, I know. A good way to do that was go through a regression therapy and discover exactly what happened to it. Get into the details of why you're scared and maybe something did happen to you. And if you understand why it happened, maybe you can accept it. And because most of the time it it was no harm was supposed to be done to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% believe that. You know, it was almost for observation and maybe implants or whatever, but it was never intended to kill or hurt or maim anybody. It's just part of the process. And it's just I guess the trauma of when they get the memories coming back to them. I'm like, oh my God,
Right.
something really strange has happened to me, and it can, be really disturbing. But I think that we don't live in a cruel universe. We live in a beautiful, harmonic, sort of environment where, it's unconditional and divine love is the dominant intention. And I think it's unfortunately, it's just when there's some of the negative reptilians and some of the lower lying humans as well that are, are fearful of losing control. And that's why, unfortunately, you have to do, well, you've had to do what you've had to do with rescuing all these poor beings, that have just found themselves caught up in a bit of a trap. Um, but it's incredible to think that they were even able to find themselves in those low dimensional frequencies from where they came from. I know
Right.
we've worked a lot with the Greys. Are they a lower dimensional being than humans?
I wouldn't say, but it's gray hybrids that I'm usually working with.
Okay.
So they're usually, I would say the predominant ones that I work with are a human gray mixture. So they have a human side to it. But I was also going to say that I have rescued humans um, from the extraterrestrials also, saving them physically and then also taking out some implants that were linked to them. So I have done work with saving both, one from the other.
Okay. And so when you save a human, like, is there a specific method that you use to save a human? Do you just remove them physically, or do you remove their soul from that environment?
It's every situation is different. There's never, well, I wouldn't say there's never one alike, but there are so many different ones. And as I said, I've got, in my book, I describe how one of the times I rescued a human, it was a woman who was on the trails in the mountains and she was hiking by herself and was getting ready to run into a group of reptilians who had escaped from somewhere. And I don't know the details. Well, I kind of do, but I'm not going to explain the details. Um, and they looked human, but when she was going to arrive there, they were going to pregnate her and then they were going to dip her in acid because they thought she was ugly because she was human. Anyway, I had to rescue her before any of that happened. So that's a long story. The details, more details are in the book.
Wow, that sounds so intense. It's such a lot of responsibility for you, to be able to kind of shift timelines for that person so that they don't have those encounters. I suppose that's how you would be doing it. You're sort of creating
I
roadblocks.
did. It was the first time, well, it was the first time I learned how to do time travel. And I was forced, it had forced me, and a lot of the things I did, situations I did get into, it forced me to bring up gifts that I had. And that was one was time traveling and going ahead before that happened to her. But it took me, I think, for like 12 hours trying to figure out how to handle it, because I was bringing my nursing in and I was going to have this person who was going to be burnt and pregnant by these men. And she was going to be asking me to let her die. And so I had some moral dilemmas to go through, and I'm giving away with the whole chapter, giving over and the physical. Whereas one of my person who I was teaching me energy work, she was telling me, all you got to do is use energy her to heal her. And I'm going, no, my nursing, I got to start an IV and get her warm or she's burned. So there's all those things that I struggled with during that whole adventure.
That's so fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing, some snippets of your book as well. I really appreciate, that because I think it'll help a lot of people get people very excited about reading your books. They sound absolutely amazing. I'm certainly going to be writing a review on Amazon after I've read them as well. I'd be interested as well, if you next time you sort of meet with Jesus or, any of the other galactic races, let them know that I'd be quite interested in helping on the mission as well when I'm ready or if I'm ready. So yeah, if I can get involved, that'd be brilliant. I wouldn't mind seeing all that stuff that you're seeing as well. That'd be amazing. So looking forward into the future.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, there's people who are on these missions who don't know they're doing it, and it's usually you're doing it in your sleep.
Hmm. Okay, well that makes sense because my dreams are just like out of this world, every night, So, okay, that would make sense. Yeah, and I'm lucid dreaming a lot more recently as well, so I'm becoming very, very aware of being in a dream, and not freaking out and waking up. I'm sort of becoming a lot more corpus mentis. Like the other day, I even was looking at these posters on the wall in this space that I was in, and I was going, well, surely I should be able to read this. And at first, it was all hieroglyphics I couldn't understand, and then it changed, and I could start deciphering numbers. And I thought, well, what are these numbers? Are they lottery numbers? And in this lucid dream, I was like, right, write them down on a piece of paper, and and then ended up doing the lottery with the numbers that I'd been given. But it was just really interesting how much information you can get when you start becoming
Right.
awake in a dream.
Right. Well, they're telling me you talking to me is activating you, but you're going
Okay,
to start remembering a lot more because
good.
you're now aware of things that are going on.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes sense. No, I do feel activated talking to you, actually. I think it's been a great conversation for me, and I hope the viewers are enjoying it as well.
I
Looking
do
ahead, because
too.
I know you are, clairvoyant, what do you see in the near future for humanity over the next, say, 5 to 10 years in human consciousness, galactic alignment, and how can listeners prepare or support for this shift?
Well, I think to have grace for everybody because there's so many people who are going to go into the shift so easily. You're just going to go like it's natural. There's others who are going to struggle and really have grace for those people and really take time for them because I think we're all being placed to let them understand or help them through it. You're going to be so naturally already experienced and know what's happening. It's easy for you, but new people coming into this thinking they're crazy or either they're denying it just to have some grace with those people.
No, that's beautiful. I love that. And thank you so much for all the amazing work that you're doing on the planet, Dr. Gale. It is helping to shift perceptions and concepts of what we perceive as being the truth and reality. Where can people find you? What's the best website for them to contact you on after today's show?
Well, my website is Dr. Gail Starseed Healer at .com, and my YouTube channel is Dr. Gail Skywalking with Moon, or probably my best way. And my email address is Dr. Gail Starseed at gmail.com. Did I get them all right? My website is Dr. Gail Healer.com.
Okay,
Sorry,
brilliant.
sorry.
I'll put the
So
links
anyway,
in, I'll get the right links and I'll pop them in the description below. But it's best that they contact you through your website, is it? Yeah, initially?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
brilliant. Well, hopefully, for anyone who has enjoyed today's episode, please make sure that you do find Dr. Gell's books on Amazon. I presume they're on Amazon, and also subscribe to her YouTube channel. Also, subscribe to Dreamtime Academy as well on YouTube. As well, we really appreciate the followers. It helps to get the message out into the world about the multidimensional true nature of the world that we live in and help prepare you for these huge consciousness shifts that are taking place as we move forward over the next 5 to 10 years. Until next time, stay open, stay curious, and remember, we're not alone in the universe. Have an incredible rest of your day. And thanks again, Dr. Gale, for being here with me today.
All right. Thanks, Hayden. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye for now.